Back again, everyone. Uh, Rolling on the new year with a new mustache and buzzed off my hair. So, yeah, it's a fresh look, wanting some change, and still life. I still think about it. It's been a while. I was just checking some of her videos. Like, the whole purpose of this video that I'm creating right now is the reminder to my own self. So I'm not creating. So yeah, I'm actually uploading it in YouTube, but the whole purpose is to come back in different time zones and see myself talking and waking my own self with all the thoughts, because with the vastness of daily activities that we get engaged in, and I, like others, like I do engaged in a lot of things, I think we tend to forget and have to remind our brain all the time on some things. That's the reason it's called like, and it's very important mainly when you are alone, compared to people who are living with their parents or have someone to talk to, or like someone who is constantly you can share stuff with. So yeah, it's not that I don't talk with my friends. Like, I do engage with them every day, and then I do try to help them with whatever I have experienced and whatever I know. But I think still, like, sometime when we are actually with 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 oneself, as in like I being in my room, so there's no one around, so we tend to chatter, like have a monologue with your own self. And that time it's very important. That's the reason it's called like subconscious part. I don't know, like, how many people are aware, but subconscious is sometimes I feel the monologue that you do with your own self, which can be in an aware form and an unaware form. So if you are actually aware, which means you're conscious about the monologue that's happening, but not all the time you are very conscious. So yeah, I think, yeah, I'm just creating these videos for my own reminder. And I think all this time I try to experiment with different stuff, like different changing the habits, as in, see, I always had some good habits, never good habits as in like whatever is considered scientifically healthy, but I still am not, in an absolute term, doing it consistently every day, whatever habits I have. So days are there when I miss it, or whatever, I'm not very conscious. And there's always like wake up, I always wake myself up uh, to try to do it. So that's what I think about life these days. So after October, November, from a work point of view, it was pretty quiet for me. I traveled internationally to a different country, had a bit of refreshment, as in terms of change in place, and then came back home. Uh, Back home doesn't mean I went back to my home country, but came back to my current place, and then wiped up with the work. Had a bit of off time in December, where I actually contemplated a lot. So it was like me time. So it was this time where I totally devoted like 24 hours to myself. No work, nothing. Just what I actually want to do. And then I always wanted to. So all this time I was trying to see, I don't know. So the more I read, I find the patterns that we humans have evolved into. So I'm going to the evolution part of how we human beings are, which all the scriptures, your religious, spiritual scriptures and scientific has a lot of parallel, how would I call it? Like there's a lot of similarity and overlapping between all these things because there's it's just the way the message is coming or is being talked about might be different, but the underlying message is same. And what I was actually trying to say, I was trying to say like we human beings in an evolved way, like we are all self-centric to some extent, so all we think about most of the time is our own self, which is I'm thinking about myself majority of the time, and I tend to interpret things from a self-centric point of view. So I don't know like how to define it. It's very complex. Yeah, there is an easy way of defining it like self-centric as in like being self-centered, like only thinking about myself. But there are some emotions you have felt it, and then you are understanding, interpreting, expressing what you have actually felt it. So yeah, it also depends upon how constantly you interact with external environment, which means socializing with friends, consuming content. Yeah, so there are a lot of factors that comes into picture. And then I think, yeah, so I was trying to experiment being in silence, as in silence means not interacting with external stuff a lot. So trying to read more, do my own stuff. So I signed up for a marathon next year. So I was trying to, get into a routine, as in, okay, so I always used to run, but I want like, okay, so now I have to track it properly because I never ran like 42 kilometers. I'm like, always ran like, okay, 5, 8, whatever. So now I have to track my health in a very consistent manner, like my heart rate or whatever, you know, and then eat in a proper way or sleep in a proper way. So I have to train my body. And then with that training comes discipline, whatever you call it. So there's a consistency. So your life repeats in a different order, and plus, since I already talked about self-centric, so I don't know if everyone feels this way, but what I feel is there's always, I think everyone feels the same way. I'll correct myself here. Yeah, as I said, to some extent we all human beings at a fundamental level sense and feel things the same way, it's just the experiences we are grown with around might be very different, like from our childhood and adulthood to your later, what do you call it, I don't know the word, next word, your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, so the experiences can be different, but fundamental way of sensing it is pretty much same. But yeah, there are some personalities, some has different personalities, but at a fundamental level, how our brain works is fundamentally same. That's the reason there's science, and then there's all this research around medicine, like, okay, what helps and what, because we are ultimately the same creature, the same species. So so I was trying to delve myself into this discipline life, as in like, okay, I have to do these things to reach there, like, as in like, to achieve this I wanted to do these things, so I'm trying to like, yeah, so all my life I think there are some things that I want to achieve, but those are not in my hand, like getting, like it is in my hand, but the ultimate call might not be in my hand, so there are a lot of things, as in like career wise I used to think like too high, as in like I had some dreams, as in like everyone has it, right? So, but those dreams, I don't have 100% control in it. Though I might be very knowledgeable, but the final call might be, or the final trigger might be on an external party or like someone else, third person, who will take the final call if I will or will not. So I don't have the complete uh, control of it. So those kind of things, I don't know, I don't enjoy it from within, so I like to do things because I like to do things, not because I want to achieve an outcome which can be influenced by someone. So you landing a job at a great company does not mean that uh, you not landing a job at a great company does not mean you are not intelligent or you don't have the knowledge. It might just mean like there are some other circumstances or like factors in place which might not played in your favor. So I am a person who crave for knowledge or whatever. So I just like to like be in my head. So just like just have fun with my own self, in my head, as in like do things where I don't want to care about what, how would I say it? I don't want to care about the external factors like that might that might hinder the flow of the thinking or whatever you call it, like the state I am in. So yeah, so this sports. So that's the reason. Like after I came to Australia, it's been like 3 years now for me. Uh, so all my life I studied, but other than the enjoyment that I had to play with my own self, in my head, there's always been a constant societal uh, aspect where I have to do this to reach there, to be stable financially or what. Because see, this is how we humans are functioning, like how the society is running. So you cannot, to an extent, at at one stage I felt I cannot go off that track. So I was trying to fit myself in, though I was doing what I liked, but I was not doing it like with, I was not fully vested into that, like doing it with my like, as in like I was doing it, but some part of my brain was also concerned about, okay, I have to reach a certain target because that's how I'm gonna step into the next step in the ladder or whatever. That's how I'm gonna go to the next phase. So that's always been in my life. So after I came here, so sports or physical activity became as an escape for myself. So I'm doing it because I like it, and then there's nothing like, okay, if I'm not gonna do this, or my life's gonna be like that, or I'm not gonna survive or whatever. So it's like a very free thing. So I'm just very free, I feel very free. Like that's how I started into sports, and it just comes from within. So I like to do things, and all my life I never got uh, that motivated because my circumstances, it was not that uh, society didn't want me to, but mentally I had a different image about the society, which I restricted my own self mentally. But after coming here, I kind of freed that, so that constraint was no longer there after I came here. So yeah, it was there, like in terms of career, like recently, like till the last, my depressive or whatever you call it, like a breakdown, major breakdown in my life was still there. But after that, like life's been pretty fine. Yeah, still I question things, but yeah, it's fine. And then I signed up and this running thingy, try to maintain some discipline, just what, being in silence, reading stuff. So I was reading, yeah, so I picked up Gita, I read a bit, I stopped it, and I picked it up again. So there's been a lot of instances I picked up, I read a few chapters, I stopped, I read again, I stopped. So I still haven't finished it. So I think I'll take longer. That's how I actually do things, you know. So that's how I enjoy doing things. So I do a lot of things, but I don't completely like. It's not like that's how I. That's the reason they call it like life is not black and white. It's gray, you know. So there's not like you're continuously doing or not doing. So there's like a lot of you doing, you stop it, you do again, you do something else, you stop, you come back, you do again. So there's a lot of things in gray. So I think that's how I interpret like life is mainly gray. You know, it's a lot of yeah. And then I read Gita a bit, read Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda to find some answers about. I was still contemplating about things, you know, like how life should be lived. And then I watched, there's this new Netflix, I don't know if it's new or not, but there was this new animated version of Mahabharat, like Kurukshetra, Netflix. I watched that, and then I found like, okay, life is everything you do, you know. So to the end, you'll understand that there's nothing actually. So there is, okay, I'll tell you like what I have experienced. So people feel like what spirituality tells you think to accept everything, you know. So everything is there. So for my, so I was trying to lean to some set standards which is normally said as in a scientific way or yogic way to reach a particular goal, which I have experienced too will actually help you. But doing that in a longer way, longer duration, not you, everyone can, everyone, because we are not habituated or we have not experienced our life growing up like that, because we were staying with our parents as a child, doing all the nasty stuff, naughty things, playing around, jumping around, fighting with brothers, sisters, watching all the dramas, and you know, so all our child we were very playful. So our brain has been molded in a particular way from our childhood, you know. So your brain is wired in a particular way. So you suddenly try to rigid it. So that rigidity or like that discipline will take you to a direction, but you don't have to force yourself too hard to be in that direction, you know. So while I was reading Yogi, Autobiography of Yogi, so I I realized like I've not finished it yet. Yeah, so that's still there. So I was reading that George Orwell's 1984. I've been reading from last year. Uh, so I read that again. So I've been reading. So I read some chapters, then I go back and read again. So every time I read again, so there's a bit more clarity on what I read. You know, so from the first time I read, and the second time I read, there's two things that's been talking in my head. Like there's two monologue that's happening. And then there's this again. I talked about the book called Surrender Experiment by Michael Allen Singer, which I read before. So I picked and read again a bit, few chapters, few pages, and these times again, like what I've experienced uh, in silence, like complete silence. You know, so I wake up, nothing, no phone. You know, read, eat. Afternoon, I used to take a bit of nap, read, go for a run, come, eat, read, sleep. Okay, so it's like, so I did that before too, but before I was still bounded with some responsibilities, as in I was still working, you know, so I still have to like wake up, like there was still routine, you know, but this time there was routine, like ultimately it played out to be in a routine manner, but in my head there was no routine. So that's how I experience that. That's what I have experienced there. And then after reading Kurukshetra, like after watching Kurukshetra, and then the ultimate meaning comes out is like everything is there, so you don't have to do things a particular way. So you can accept everything. What does acceptance mean? Is it like you doing everything or you accepting everything, as in like at a mental state you accept everything, but you might not action, or what do you call it, in an action or physical format, or you're not doing everything, but at a mental level you're doing everything. So okay, I'll just come back to a recent statement that I heard in a podcast by Nikhil Kamath. He was interviewing some minister from Dubai, and then he quoted a line from Machiavelli, I think. I don't know, it was Machiavelli or someone else. So he quoted a line where he said like, and again it's again like, so all these are spiritual to some level, psychological, whatever you call it, so it all has parallels. The more deeper you go into it, the more you read, the more you experience things, you find like it all has parallels, so it is speaking the same language, you're experiencing the same thing. It's just that since it's a new day every day, you know so you have to refreshen your brain again. So it's just like a robot with no charge in it, and then you have to charge it again, and the battery is full, and again it will do some stuff, and again the battery is off. So it's every day is a new day, and then you do it every day. So the statement that I heard there is like, you should appear, or at least the world should perceive you as a family man, joyful, or whatever. So there are different states. He said like family man, happy, fair, joyful. So there were some states again, different states, like which again transcribe to how different scriptures, like sacred scriptures, want us human beings to like live in this life, like live in this world. So in that statement, what it was said was, you should be appeared to be in those states, but not to be actually one of them. Which means, to what my understanding is just like the way it is said, like you actually accept everything. So even in Kurukshetra, all the stuff that happened, there was no dharma in it. So a lot of things that happened was not dharma. So it was that's the reason it said like there's no right or wrong. So everything is right, everything can be wrong, and everything has its own consequences. you know so acceptance at a mental level, it's very important, as in you may not be doing everything, which is, see, that's the reason, like I always say it, like human, I don't know if I'm in a state right now where I think like I'm not making a lot of sense. I don't know how much the listener here, maybe my future self or someone listening, will be able to comprehend what I'm saying here. Like a lot of what you want to say in terms of words may not be very able to articulate it when I want to express it, like while I'm talking right now. Maybe if I try writing it, I'll be better in articulating it. But yeah, it's very difficult to articulate right now, like words. So there are some things, how would I say it? What I was trying to say, yeah. So Yeah, I'm amused on my own self. Um, to accept everything. Yeah, yes. As in, like, yeah, mentally there should be acceptance. And then you actually see, like, if you actually introspect this deeper, you'll see like you're accepting everything, but you actually might not, maybe in a long horizon of 70, 60, whatever years in your life, maybe you might do some of the things that you actually accepted and to some extent are inclined toward it, but you don't have to do it then, which has again a scientific and some medical consequence to our brain. So just accepting everything will help some some different hormones to release, so just the possibility in your head that you maybe one day, you don't know when, will be able to do this, just the possibility of that will give a lot of like serotonin, like satisfaction hormone and all. So that's the reason it calls like you should appear but never be. I don't know. So again, I'm see, there's a lot of things going in my head right now. So I think I should try writing essays on it. But yeah, so you should appear being this, but you never be one. So you should always be in a state of peace, but you appear to be all this. But mentally, you are accepting everything, so you are always at peace. And then you always had the thing subconsciously in mind that there is the possibility of this being. Maybe it might not happen then, right? But you have that thing subconsciously in your head. And then this so I've always been, I don't know, I call myself an old soul. So I like reading, not reading, I admire all very oldish stuff because I grew up seeing my dad, mom, both, so they are from their own era. So I consume a lot of content, I would say it in Gen Z language, like from their era, um, which had wired my brain to some extent where I favor old thoughts more, like old thoughts more. So it's always been more inclined towards that. So after this, yeah, there's been some few instances before too, like I wanted to read some classics uh, by all these great writers, philosophers. And then I read, like, I don't have the books, but I ended up reading few, just like just in the wikis, Wikipedia, and I can draw some parallels there too. And I always had some interest since I said like I just like to be in my own head. So I always had an interest towards a bit of science stuff, like natural science. So there's natural science, social science. So social science is more on other stuff. Like there are a lot into social science, so like different uh, different areas under it. But in terms of natural science too, in terms of physics, maths, whatever. So I was reading a bit of quantum mechanics, few things on quant. I say I've not like read everything, but I was still again trying to read. So there's a lot of overlap there too, in terms of quantum mechanics too. They call it like, how would I call it? So there are